Hello, today I'm going to tell you how to build a computer. Well, as everyone knows, everyone has a computer. You use one in your house, your work, for fun, just for everything. And you normally buy one from the store for $500 to $600 at the cheapest. You can build a custom one for half that, for $250 to $300. It takes a little bit longer and a little bit knowledge about computers, but it's cheaper and pretty easy. The first thing you need to do is buy your parts. You need to buy your case to store all your parts, that houses all your parts. Then you need the processor and the heatsink fan to cool that processor. You also need a power supply unit to power your computer, which pretty much powers everything. The RAM, which is your random access memory. It's just a little memory that stores things on the go. Then your hard drive, which stores all your file and operating system. You also need a CD drive that will read your CDs and games or music CDs that you want. You need a monitor so you can view things, so you can interface with the actual computer, and a keyboard and mouse to type and click around. Here is a picture of all the parts. Alright, first part of the assembly is to put your power supply unit in your case. It normally goes in either in the top of the case or in the bottom of the case, and has a slot that looks pretty similar to the back of the power supply unit, and just screws in like the picture shows. Step 2 is to mount your processor onto your motherboard. There's a little rectangular square slot on your motherboard that nothing else but the processor can go in. You just place it in and latch it down. Next, you have to mount your heatsink fan on top of your processor. It's fairly simple. You just put the heatsink gel on top of the processor, place the heatsink fan on top of it, and latch it down into your motherboard with the screws that are on the heatsink fan itself. Next, you need to put the motherboard inside the case. The first step to this is to screw in copper screws into the case that the motherboard will rest on. This simply to screw into the case, and then you can place the motherboard on top of the screws and screw the motherboard directly into those copper platings. Next, you can put your RAM into your motherboard. This is also a simple step. You just take the RAM, find the rectangular slots that are similarly shaped to the RAM, and slide them in and latch them onto the motherboard. Next is the hard drive. There are slots in the front of the hard drive in the front of the case where the hard drive will go. You slide it in and screw it in tight into the case so it won't move, and that's about it. Next is the CD drive. This will normally slide in from the front of the case, going towards the back. You just a simple slide in and it normally latches, or you have to screw it in place into the case. Next is the wiring. All the wires have to go into the motherboard or the power supply. It's fairly simple. All the wires have similar size things that they go to. The hard drive will have a data ribbon or data cable that will go into the motherboard, and they have similar slots for each. The hard drive and CD drive operate similarly. As for the power supply cables, those each look the same and can go in any which way, except for the processor power, which is a different one. But the processor power supply will go into a plug-in that looks similar to the plug itself. Next is attaching the monitor. It's a simple matter of taking the cord that looks similar to the plug-in that you're plugging into. It's normally color-coded the same and it's shaped the same, so it's really easy. Next is a mouse and keyboard. Both use a USB plug-in, which is a little rectangular plug-in that goes into the back of the computer. These can put in any USB slot you can find. They're similar shaped and they're not color-coded because they can go anywhere. Next is installing the operating system. This is really simple. You just have to turn on the computer, insert your CD, and follow the steps as they go. So, to wrap things up, the building computer is pretty simple. You just have to follow the steps that are required, and, well, it's cheaper. Nothing is better than a cheap computer. That is all. And now.
You're so short, Angie. Okay, there you go.